The door to James Wilson's modest office swung open without warning, revealing Elise Harrington's imposing silhouette against the hallway lights. His heart sank. The CEO never visited the marketing department unless something was terribly wrong. "We need to talk about your future with this company," she said, closing the door behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded like a prison cell locking. James glanced at the framed photo of his 8-year-old daughter Lily on his desk. Her gap-toothed smile a reminder of everything at stake. 3 months behind on his mortgage, and with Lily's asthma medication costs doubling, he couldn't afford to lose this job. "Not now. The Goldstein account," Elise said, perching on the edge of his desk, her designer suit probably worth 3 of his monthly paychecks. "It's worth billions. And I need to close it at the Winter's Gala this Friday." Her perfectly manicured finger tapped his desk calendar where he'd written, "Lily, Science Fair," in blue marker. "And I need you there as my date." James felt his collar tighten. "Ms. Harrington, I'm sorry, but my daughter." "James," she interrupted, her voice softening dangerously. "The restructuring plan goes to the board on Monday. I'm cutting 20% of middle management." Her eyes flicked meaningfully to his nameplate. "I need someone charming. Someone who understands these clients. Someone who makes me look good." The family photo seemed to grow heavier in its frame. James could feel the walls of his life closing in, his daughter's future in one hand, his dignity in the other. "So what will it be?" Elise asked, standing to smooth her skirt. "My charming date who keeps his job? Or..." She left the alternative hanging in the air between them, a guillotine blade suspended by the thinnest thread. The silk tie felt like a noose around James's neck as he stood in the mirror of Elise's penthouse suite, trying desperately to compose himself. His phone had buzzed 3 times in the last 10 minutes. 3 times. Each message from Mrs. Chen, Lily's babysitter, each one more apologetic than the last. Her grandson had taken a fall. She couldn't leave him alone. She was so sorry. James's hands trembled as he typed a response he didn't mean. "It's fine. Don't worry." But it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. "You're pale," Elise said, entering the suite in a cloud of expensive perfume and emerald silk. She'd emerged from her bedroom already dressed, already perfect, already composed. Cold feet about the gala. He couldn't lie anymore. The words spilled out like water breaking through a dam. "My babysitter cancelled. My daughter, Lily, she's 8, she's at home alone right now. I've called 3 backup sitters and they're all unavailable and his voice cracked. "I can't leave her." Something shifted in Elise's expression. Not pity. Something gentler. She watched him for a long moment, this man in her expensive borrowed suit, whose eyes were glistening with the kind of fear only a parent truly understands. "How far is your house?" she asked quietly. 20 minutes later, Lily sat cross-legged on Elise's marble kitchen counter, swinging her legs and eating chocolate chip cookies while her father hovered nearby, visibly wrestling with guilt and relief. Elise crouched beside the girl, asking about her science fair project with genuine curiosity. And James saw something he'd never witnessed before, his powerful, untouchable boss speaking to his daughter as though she mattered. As though he mattered. "She can stay here tonight," Elise said finally, standing to meet James's eyes. "There's a guest room on the 3rd floor. Security will watch over her. She'll be safer than anywhere else in the city." James's throat tightened. In that moment, the professional divide between them dissolved like morning mist. He wasn't performing anymore. Neither was she. The ballroom glittered with wealth and power, a world James had only glimpsed through boardroom windows. Elise's hand rested lightly on his arm as they approached Maxwell Goldstein, the billionaire whose signature could save or sink the entire company. James felt his throat tighten. This wasn't his world. These weren't his people. "Harrington finally brought a man to one of these things," Goldstein boomed, eyeing James like a curiosity. "Let me guess, Harvard? Princeton?" The question hung in the air, dripping with assumption. "Community college, actually," James replied, feeling Elise stiffen beside him. "Night classes while working full-time." Goldstein's smile faltered. "Well, isn't that quaint?" Before James could respond, Elise leaned forward. "James built our entire Pacific campaign from scratch. Increased market share 40% in 18 months. Her voice carried a warmth James had never heard before. "Some of us had to earn our way up, Max." The billionaire's eyebrows shot up. In that moment, James saw something unexpected flash across Elise's face, not the calculated charm she usually deployed, but something raw and genuine. She too had been dismissed, underestimated. As Goldstein wandered off, they retreated to a quiet corner. "Sorry if I embarrassed you," James murmured. "Are you kidding?" Elise laughed, a real laugh that crinkled the corners of her eyes. "Did you see his face?" She mimicked Goldstein's shocked expression, and suddenly they were both laughing, shoulders touching, conspirators in a world that had never quite accepted either of them. "You know," she said, her voice softer now, "I worked 3 jobs to put myself through business school." Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them, recognition, understanding. For the first time, they weren't boss and employee. They were just 2 people who had fought the same battles, carried the same scars. 2 outsiders who somehow, against all odds, found themselves standing together. The contract sat between them like a loaded gun. James stared at the clause Goldstein had inserted at the last minute. A requirement to quietly lay off 300 factory workers while publicly announcing strategic restructuring. His pen hovered over the signature line as Elise's eyes bored into him. The conference room felt suddenly airless. "It's just business," she whispered, her hand brushing his under the table. "Everyone does it. Sign it, James." Her voice held a plea he'd never heard before. This wasn't just about the company anymore. Something had bloomed between them these past few days, fragile, unexpected, real. James thought of his daughter Lily. He thought of the bedtime stories he told her about doing the right thing even when it was hard. He thought of the 300 families who would lose everything if he signed his name. With trembling fingers, he set the pen down. "I can't," he said simply. The words hung in the air between them. Elise's face hardened, the warmth draining away. "Do you understand what you're throwing away? The deal. Your job." Her voice dropped lower. "Use." James stood, his chair scraping against the polished floor. "I know exactly what I'm losing." His voice broke on the last word. "But some prices are too high, Elise, even for you." He walked out of the conference room, each step heavier than the last. Behind him, he heard Goldstein's smug chuckle, the rustle of papers being gathered. He didn't look back to see Elise's face. He couldn't bear to watch the moment when ambition won out over whatever had been growing between them. In the elevator, alone, he pressed his forehead against the cool metal wall. He had just sacrificed everything, his career, his financial security, and the first woman who had made his heart beat faster in years. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the crushing weight of loss, he felt something unexpected. Peace. The elementary school auditorium buzzed with excitement as parents clutched programs for The Wizard of Oz. James sat alone in the 3rd row, his tie slightly crooked, a small bouquet of daisies waiting on his lap for Lily. 3 months of odd jobs had barely kept them afloat since he'd walked away from Harrington Industries. Worth it, he reminded himself, always worth it. The lights dimmed, and he felt someone slip into the empty seat beside him, a familiar scent, jasmine and sandalwood. His heart stopped. Elise. She looked different, somehow softer, the sharp edges gone from her expression. Before he could speak, the curtain rose, and there was Lily in her Tin Man costume, her voice clear and sweet as she sang about finding a heart. "She's beautiful," Elise whispered, her fingers brushing against his in the darkness. For 40 minutes, they sat side by side without speaking. When the final curtain fell and the children took their bows, Elise finally turned to him. "I didn't sign Goldstein's contract," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't. Not after what you showed me." She pressed a folder into his hands. Inside was a business proposal, a new division focused on ethical marketing, community investment, worker protections. His name was listed as director. "I've spent 3 months rebuilding the company's values," she said. "I need someone who remembers what matters. Someone who reminds me who I want to be." James looked up, his vision blurring. "Why me?" Elise's hand found his, warm and certain. "Because you had the courage I'd forgotten. Because you chose what was right over what was easy." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And because I've missed you every single day." Lily bounded up then, silver face paint smudged with happy tears. Elise knelt down to her level, offering a small wrapped gift. "Your dad told me once that the Tin Man had the biggest heart of all," she said. "He was right about that. He's right about a lot of things. If this story touched your heart today, remember that courage isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply choosing integrity when no one is looking. The most beautiful transformations happen when we stay true to ourselves, even at great cost." Like James discovered, what seems like an ending might actually be the doorway to something far more precious than we ever imagined possible. If this message of hope and second chances resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need this reminder today. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories of heart, courage, and genuine connection to others who need them most.